Hello, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today, I'm reviewing Flight Risk. What is there to say about Flight Risk other than I'm using this background because the movie takes place in Alaska. So let's talk about this. So what is Flight Risk? Well, first of all, Flight Risk, honestly, not a movie I would have chosen to see myself. But as viewers, longtime viewers of my program might know, what I do for a living is I help people with disabilities live their lives. And one of the things I do for some of these people is help them go to see movies they want to see. Even if they're not particularly movies that I'm excited about. And Flight Risk definitely falls into that category. So what is Flight Risk? Flight Risk, Flight Risk is a tight little action thriller set in a limited space with a limited cast. We've seen movies like this before, things like Phone Booth, and second example here that I haven't thought of yet. But the point is that it's not an uncommon thing for filmmakers to do. It's very budget friendly. Normally, I don't know if it costs more to do this if you're inside a plane. The film's main characters are Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Dockery, and Topher Grace. Whew, and they make quite an interesting trio, so to speak. When we first start the film, we essentially meet Michelle Dockery playing Madeline Harris, who is arresting Topher Grace's Winston, who is a former, guy who ran books for the mob type guy. He agrees to do a deal to testify against the bad guy if they, keep him alive. And that's what the film's about, keeping Topher Grace alive. Honestly, Topher Grace, for me, is the highlight of the movie. I'm a fan of Topher Grace. I like his work. So far, he's the only person from that 70s show's original cast of teenagers who has not become deeply problematic in the public eye. No relation to Diddy parties is what I'm saying, or Scientology, as far as I'm aware. And essentially, the film is Michelle Dockery taking Topher Grace's character up on an airplane. Unfortunately for them, though, the real pilot of their airplane has been replaced by Mark Wahlberg's character, whose real name we never learn. In fact, arguably one of the issues of the film is that Mark Wahlberg's character kind of relies entirely on Mark Wahlberg's performance, which, to be fair to Mark Wahlberg, he is a creepy motherfucker in this movie. Apparently so creepy that he apologized to the cast, which of course would be Michelle Dockery and Topher Grace later on. But let's get back into it. So there's the idea. Mark Wahlberg's pilot character is the hitman. Michelle Dockery is the US Marshal with a past that makes it questionable to put her back out in the field. And Topher Grace is this guy who is finally doing the right thing after a lifetime of, running numbers for the mob. Running numbers makes it sound like he's racketeering. I mean, literally, he's doing investment shit for them. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the movie. There's some minor twists and turns. There's actually a couple of supporting characters who spend most of the time on the phone. We literally never see them. But I'm going to address the big yucky elephant in the room. This is a film by Mel Gibson. And, Mel Gibson's a pretty wild guy. He's only been canceled 3 times for basically doing the same shit, getting drunk and being anti-Semitic, getting drunk and being racist, leaving a racist phone message for his ex, getting drunk and being anti-Semitic. Seriously, Mel Gibson, you need to either become a better person or you need to stop drinking. Either one would probably do wonders for your career at this point. But I would encourage you to, stop being racist and anti-Semitic, you fucking gross, not Holocaust-denying Nazi motherfucker. No one's ever said that Mel Gibson is a real Nazi, although arguably anyone who brings up the Jewish question is at least Nazi adjacent. But damn it, if Hollywood doesn't love Mel Gibson for some reason, you'd think a city with that many Jewish people would eventually say, get him the fuck out of here. However, for whatever reason, they have not. Whether that's his Oscar winning roles or the fact that many Americans don't care that he's an anti Semitic racist who will continue to go see his films, or it's just the fact that he's super talented. Who knows what the excuse is to like. I don't know why he gets more of a pass than other artists. That's all I'm saying. But whatever it is, he gets to keep making movies. Probably because the Crizzos love him so much. Crizzos, Christians. Got that from James Acaster. It's time for a fact check. Fact checking stuff I said during the editing process. Yeah, fact check. I'm going to give you more information on the controversies of Mel Gibson, both in fairness to him and also to clarify the clumsiness of which I accused him. So let's get to it. First of all, there's a number of controversies I did not mention, such as the fact that Mel Gibson was banned from driving in 1983 when he rear-ended another vehicle while he was drunk, which is pretty shitty of him to do. He was actually banned from driving after that. 3-month driving ban in Toronto, Canada, to be more specific. Gibson was accused of homophobia throughout the 90s. GLAAD went after him for his portrayal of a character in Braveheart. And in 2010, in an interview, Winona Ryder accused him of making both homophobic and anti-Semitic remarks to her at a party. Specifically, she was at this Hollywood party. They were chatting. Mel Gibson was drunk. You may have detected a pattern here. And Mel Gibson started... Mel Gibson found out that she was Jewish and asked her that she was brace yourself for kind of a slur here, asked if she was an oven dodger, which she says she was not aware of what that meant at the time. He apparently also asked if he also, when finding out that her gay friend was gay, said, "Oh no, am I going to get AIDS?" or something to that effect. Hold on, I got the quote here or something. It's not important. That's the general gist. Mel Gibson has the people from Mel Gibson have denied these things, but that's not terribly surprising. The big one that ultimately would lead to the temporary cancellation of Mel Gibson, of course, is when he was caught driving under the influence again in 2006 and made numerous anti-Semitic remarks to the arresting officers, which were recorded. Mel Gibson would later go on to claim that he was recorded illegally, which is funny in today's world because now the cops are required to record you for your protection. It is for your protection. That sounded ironic, but I'm moving along. But he made numerous anti-Semitic comments, and the type of anti-Semitic comments that are, how should I put this, hard to take out of context. Things like, fucking Jews. The Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world. Are you a Jew? Please do not clip me saying that. I am quoting Mel Gibson, Jesus Christ. Now, Mel Gibson did apologize to the ADL for these comments. In fact, he apologized first to the police and then made a second lengthier apology to the ADL. This still put a serious damper on his career for a while, although eventually Jodie Foster would cast him in a movie again. In 2010, he made racist remarks to his ex-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva. Now, I will say I said it was a voicemail, but I am actually not clear from reading this article if it was a voicemail or if she recorded him. However, the big takeaways from the thing that he said was that he hoped she got raped by a pack of N-words. Whoo, that's yeesh. Everything about that is fucked up. Mel Gibson has tried to play the game of this is just one snapshot of a terrible time in our lives. Okay. She also accused him of domestic abuse, which he was charged with misdemeanor battery in 2011 after a 2010 fight with his ex-girlfriend. Just going through the timeline here, folks. Side note, this fact check is brought to you by Business Insider. I'm not saying they paid you. I'm just saying that's where I got the timeline. So yeah, Mel Gibson, a lot of yikesy stuff. In fairness to Mel Gibson, he has apologized for most of this. Although, in fairness, he also really tries to downplay it and doesn't really own any of these things, just and keeps referring to what he said while drunk as a moment of insanity. Now, I will say this. I have never been so drunk that I started making anti-Semitic rants. But I was once so high, I tried to convince a man that horses were from America. That's not true. And I don't know why I lied to that man about that. But I have never been so high that I suddenly started sounding like Hitler. Now back to the review. Where was I? Right. So the film is made by Mel Gibson, which actually is definitely a point against it. And not just because he's an anti-Semitic racist. Those, of course, are points against him and his body of work in general. But here, the points against Mel Gibson are, in fact, the fact that this is, if I had to describe the quality of this film to you, it would be that this is a above to below average streaming movie, depending on what streaming service you're watching. For some streaming services, this is above average, and for some streaming services, this is below average. It really just depends on which streaming service you're watching. This would be above average for Tubi, but below average for probably who makes the good ones, like HBO Max. Are there straight to streaming movies any good? It's been a minute. Netflix? Is Netflix kind of all over the place still? I feel like Netflix movies are all over the place. The point is that Flight Risk is not a movie I can really recommend to anyone. Well, I mean, maybe if you're at home and you want to do sort of a throwback thriller, because that's kind of what Flight Risk is. It's just a throwback thriller to a different time in the 90s when this type of thing would have been considered, like real risky, edge of your seat filmmaking. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mel Gibson, like, sucks at making this movie, but, like, at the same time, when you go from directing Oscar-winning movies and like, box office mega hits to directing Flight Risk, it feels like a point against you. You know what I mean? Like, if this were some up-and-coming director on a streaming service, which is where it probably would have gone if it wasn't attached to Mel Gibson, then I'd be sitting here going, you know what? Not bad. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's a solid first flick, you guy. Making your first action movie. Proud of you. I'll forget it in a few years. I'll probably forget about this movie in a few years, but good for you. Not a bad job, novice. Unfortunately, this is Mel Gibson, who has received literal Oscars for his directing. Doesn't feel like it here. And I'm not saying that the film is wildly incompetent, although there are several technical issues that I do want to address, like the terrible CGI moose, the questionable blood effects throughout the film, some of which are clearly CGI and others that just look like bad fake blood. I don't know. Have you noticed that blood in movies looks like shit recently? When was the last time you saw a good, like, just go back to doing blood the way you used to do blood, Hollywood. I mean, come on. We let it go in John Wick because John Wick is A, creative, and B, doesn't use its CGI blood as aggressively as other movies. But a lot of movies' blood looking like shit these days. Looking at you, Expendables 4. And this movie is definitely one of them. So let's talk about the acting. The acting's not bad. The acting's not bad. I mean, none of the actors have like a giant amount of material to work with. The film practically takes place in real time. It's about literally a 90-minute flight to Anchorage, Alaska. And that's most of the movie. And Mark Wahlberg's character doesn't get like a real solid background of any kind. At first, you're like, oh, he's just a hitman for the mob. But then he has several lines that make you go, wait a minute, what? Like, just for starters, Mark Wahlberg at a certain point admits that he's doing this for free. Not the actor, Mark Wahlberg. I don't have a name for his character because the character name the name he tells people is actually the name of the real pilot who he killed. But apparently, Mark Wahlberg's character kills people for the mob for fun. Whew. All right, I'm gonna do a trigger warning for sexual content here because the creepiest thing about Mark Wahlberg's character that has to be addressed is that he spends almost the entire movie just talking about how once it's revealed that he is a psycho murderer, he spends most of the movie either singing like 80s music at them or talking about how he's going to rape both of them. Like the only person who ever uses the word rape is Topher Grace, talking about the fact that he doesn't want to get raped by a bald guy, which apparently is worse for some reason. I don't know what that means about bald guys. But Mark Wahlberg does have a pretty bad hairline that makes me feel better about my own. But that's besides the point. I'm rocking this skullet. Suck it, internet. Where was I? Right. So Mark Wahlberg's guy is creepy as fuck. We find out that he basically loves nothing more than torturing and raping people. And that's what he's planning to do to Madeline Harrison and Winston, a.k.a. Michelle Dockery and Topher Grace's characters. As soon as he can get them alone in the middle of nowhere. However, they figure out the fact that he is, lying at a decent rate in the movie. And of course, then begins the struggle for their lives at 3,000 feet because they're not flying that high. And so let's talk about the acting. Mark Wahlberg's character is super creepy and weird. He kind of nails it, I guess. Michelle Dockery does a good job of being the tough lady who has a lot of action scenes. Honestly, Topher Grace, though, is the highlight of the movie for me. I dig it. I dig his delivery. I think he is the funniest character in the movie. Mark Wahlberg's character seems like he thinks he's funny, but like he is just fucking unsettling. Topher Grace, though, kind of the highlight of the movie for me. I'm just a fan of Topher Grace and his work, and I enjoyed his performance here. I thought it was decent, not incredible, not award worthy, anything like that, but like he's holding his own. He's doing a good job in this movie that he admittedly probably also thought was going straight to streaming. Although, to be fair, it was directed by Mel Gibson, so maybe he didn't. I don't know. Although, to be fair, maybe I should be concerned that all of these people are problematic because they are agreeing to work with Mel Gibson. I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't want to just give people guilt by association, but like it is Mel Gibson. Talented racist. Michelle Dockery, like I said, does a good job of the tough lady. Topher Grace, blah, 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 blah. The acting is fine. There are some characters who primarily appear over the phone, and they do as good a job as you can acting over the phone. Let's talk about the action. So, of course, the action comes in two forms. One, we're having fights on the plane, of course. And, of course, we have plane shenanigans where the plane almost hits something or the crash landing at the end. That's kind of a spoiler, although to be honest, like what the fuck did you think was going to happen? I am going to spoil the funniest line in the movie. Not right now, but I am going to spoil the funniest line in the movie. So if for some reason you don't want this movie spoiled, I mean fine. But I'm not there yet. I'm not to that moment. Because I still got some more things I want to talk about. The action. Let's talk about the action. So there are several fight scenes on the plane, which are mostly Michelle Dockery, Mark Wahlberg struggling because Topher Grace spends like the first third of the movie in shackles. But eventually he gets in on the action too, managing to pull a knife out of his own chest to cut a seatbelt that Mark Wahlberg is strangling Michelle Dockery with. Now, of course, I should also warn you as an audience member that because the nature of this film is that the female protagonist is doing most of the action, there is also a lot of violence against a woman. Specifically, Mark Wahlberg fighting Michelle Dockery, and some of it gets pretty hairy. Choking, slamming, stabbings, shootings. She doesn't get shot, but Topher Grace gets stabbed. But she holds her own, too, doing shit like punching just absolutely beating the shit out of Mark Wahlberg's face, hitting him with a hitting him with fire extinguishers, shooting him with a flare gun, shooting him with a real gun. She fucks him up in this movie. And to be fair, Mark Wahlberg also fucks himself up in here in the slightly better gore and blood moment of the film. He breaks his own thumb to get out of a handcuff and then like strips off the outer epidermis of his hand to get out. It doesn't do him much good. She shoots him in like the leg and shit. But in keeping with this action thing, let me give it to you straight. Here's where I'm going to ruin the best line in the movie. So if for some reason you needed to see this movie, here's your one warning of a spoiler. So the very end of the movie, of course, it all gets worked out. By the way, there was one other thing in the movie that was kind of happening that I kind of didn't buy into. I'm going to address this first, actually, before I do the best line in the movie. There's another character in the movie who is a pilot who is helping Michelle Dockery's character to try and fly the plane and then hopefully eventually land the plane. And he's like a Indian or Pakistan. They don't tell you, but like it's clear from his voice. And then later when he appears briefly for like a minute at the end of the film, that he is Middle Eastern of some kind, who is apparently doing airplane tech support in this movie. He's technically a pilot. Let's not slip into racist jokes here. We'll leave that to the racist who directed the film. Where was I? Right. But the movie is kind of like setting up a flirtatious thing between him and her. And like realistically, I feel like the flirtation is him trying to keep a person calm and not crash the plane. Like that is the more realistic reason why I think that is happening. But like the film also kind of seems to think that there is some actual romance here. And like, I'm going to say this film, I don't think that's believable or really matters to the rest of the film. I believe that it's a better interpretation that he's just trying to keep him calm to land the plane. I think the romance here is a failed thing that doesn't really work for a number of reasons. Like I guess you could say they're trauma bonding, but that's not good. Although statistically, this type of weird trauma bonding can result in really successful marriages. Look it up. Where was I? Right. I don't buy that romance, but that's neither here nor there. Trauma bonding being the only logical explanation. I just don't feel like the film properly gets the romance across. And the romance is unnecessary to begin with. Let's move along. The best line of the movie goes down like this. It's the end of the movie. They're bringing the plane in. They're coming in. It's going shit. And Mark Wahlberg is in the back. He's bleeding, but he has gotten out of the cuffs. He tries one last time to get the thing you steer an airplane with. They say it several times. I don't remember what they said. They don't call it. But the point is, he tries to like crash the plane at the last minute, and she fucking elbows the shit out of him, and then shoots him in the leg and like thigh and stuff. And as they crash land, like the plane goes like spins, and it throws Mark Wahlberg out the door, and he like rolls across the ground, somehow survives that, but looks up just in time to get absolutely annihilated by an ambulance. Just like, boom. And this results in one of the, I forget if they're a cop or a paramedic, but they get in the plane and they're like, and basically Michelle Dockery's character is like, oh my God. It's like, where's our third person? Where's our third passenger? And the EMT or like police person, I can't remember which one it is basically like, I'm so sorry. He was thrown from the plane and he didn't make it. And Michelle Dockery responds with, oh, thank God. And honestly, I laughed. I laughed at that moment in the film because like that EMT has no idea why that would be her response. It's very funny to me. And of course, there's a last minute thing where she saves Topher Grace again at the end. And it's fine, I guess. Like that's the thing is that like the movie does the things it's promising to do, but like what are its real ambitions? What is it really bringing? Are the characters that well developed? not really. They each got like one thing, which is that Topher Grace is worried about his mom, and he want actually it's probably, probably one of the best scenes in the movie is Topher Grace is all morphined up and he's got these stab wounds and he thinks he's dying and he's like, "You gotta tell my mom. You gotta tell my mom. I tried to do the right thing at the end." And she's like, and she finally agrees to it and stuff. And like, it's kind of the best part of the movie, but like, there are better movies. At the end of the day, the thing about this movie is I just can't recommend anyone see it in theaters. Like it's got like stream at home when you're bored vibes all the way through it. All the way. Like that is the level that it's at. And like honestly, at the end of the day, all I really can say is I like Topher Grace. Topher Grace probably made me like this movie better than it deserves. This is probably a fine movie to get stoned and sit on your couch and watch on like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or Tubi when it comes to any of those platforms, because there's just nothing in the movie that justifies going out of your way to see it. This is a convenience store level of entertainment, and it's a airplane paperback level of storytelling. The fact that Mel Gibson has directed numerous movies that get Oscars actually makes the movie feel shittier, like because you expect more from that guy. But hey, at least the movie doesn't say anything fucked up about the Jews. We'll give the movie that. The movie itself is not anti-Semitic or racist, even though Mel Gibson definitely is. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this this mini review of Flight Risk. Real. I mean, honestly, I mean it's fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It just is. But thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Ring that bell if you're on YouTube. You can always leave a comment either on Spotify or on YouTube. And you know, if you want to be, if you would like to talk to me or communicate with my program, you can email the program at rubenuncut@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whoever you are.